Into the movie. So you said that you're not ready to let go of the like spooky season, fall vibes quite yet. So, for you personally, when does Christmas start? Or
Oh,
maybe a better question is, when do you feel that it's appropriate for the Christmas season to start?
I feel like as soon as Christmas music starts hitting the radio. Like you know when like radio stations like
Mm-hmm.
go into that like pre-Christmas mode like mid-November.
Yeah.
That's when I feel that Christmas starts for me, but Halloween's my favorite season and like fall vibes are kind of like what I go for all the time.
Yeah.
So it's basically year round for me. It's like
Okay.
Halloween
Okay.
season.
Got
It's
you.
it's always time for a good horror movie for me.
That's true. That's a very good point. Yeah. No, I was just curious because I've had a lot of conversations with people recently about when the most appropriate time for Christmas to start is. Because I've got friends who are the minute October 31st is over, they're pulling out their Halloween totes and decorating. And me personally, I have the very strong opinion that that Christmas should be. I think what you said, mid-November, is good. I think
Yeah.
that's good. For me personally, I like after Thanksgiving.
Oh,
And
that's
once
yeah.
after Thanksgiving, I am fully in the jingle mood. But
The jingle mood.
but if I see like decorations popping up and stuff like mid-November, I'm like, yeah, this is okay. This is okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen stores putting up their stuff well before Halloween even happened, like for Christmas
Right,
stuff.
yeah.
And Caitlin, who's a guest on our podcast, she gets into the Christmas mood as soon as Halloween ends. Like
Oh yeah.
November 1st, she sent a message to everybody she knows. It is like, Halloween's over. It's Christmas time.
Yeah.
So she's completely in Christmas mode right now, and it is hilarious to watch because pretty much nobody else is right now. I mean, I'm kind of getting into it just because, like, I only really look forward to Thanksgiving for like being with my family and
Hmm.
stuff like that, and like having and like being together with people.
Hmm.
But I don't really celebrate it as like a huge holiday other than for like food and family.
Sure, yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm more excited for Christmas just for like the expectation of the holiday season. So
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I don't know why just now, if I'm just noticing it now or if it's like started to become more prominent, but I'm noticing the two very vocal, passionate groups rising up. One who is it's Christmas time the minute Halloween ends, and people who want to stave off Christmas until a little bit later.
yeah.
And they've been clashing. I've seen them on TikTok going at it. I've seen some Twitter feuds going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a heated battle out there.
Yeah, November is the Halloween Christmas limbo. Like
Yeah.
it's the gap in between.
Right, right, yeah.
Okay, tangent aside,
Tangent
we're gonna
aside.
get into this movie now, which has nothing to do with anything we just talked about. But you know what? We're having fun here.
It's okay.
It's a good time.
Every now and again, we can talk about something not related to movie.
Yeah, basically. So this movie, Young Frankenstein, came out in 1974. It was directed by Mel Brooks and produced by Michael Gruskoff. And it was written by Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks, and also stars Gene Wilder, Madeline Kahn, Peter Boyle, and Marty Feldman. So there are some comedy powerhouses in this movie.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Well, okay, so since I was the one to recommend the movie for this week, I kind of want to know what you thought first. Like your thoughts about the movie first.
Okay, okay. Well, as you know, I saw it for the first time about a year ago, almost like exactly to this date a year ago.
Yeah, I mean it was
Maybe
around
maybe like a
Halloween,
week
yeah.
earlier or something. But yeah, and as you know, I fell asleep watching the movie. Um, Granted, that's no reflection on the movie's quality. We were watching it in a planetarium with a film group at our school, and the seats were reclined back, and it was dark and comfy, and I fell asleep, so I missed Definitely at least half of the movie.
Yeah, it was a good like middle chunk. I like you fell asleep 15 minutes in and like no one woke you up until like you started snoring.
Yeah.
Not to put you on blast on air, but
no, it's okay.
The funniest thing I think I've ever experienced.
I get crap for it a lot apparently. My snoring.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was when I first watched it, and now I got to rewatch it. What I saw of it back then, I enjoyed. I was having a nice, relaxing, fun time with everything that I was watching, and I basically had the exact same experience this time. I can't say that like now seeing the full thing, like my mood has drastically gone up. Like holy, I didn't realize it was like this is what I was missing, but I also wasn't like, yeah, I wouldn't mind sleeping through this again. No, I kind of had the same feelings watching it again, and that is one of humor. And can you feel humor? You feel humorous? I was laughing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what it is with these like older movies, but like the humor gets me so much more than some of the newer movies.
Yes.
Like it's just so much funnier, and like I can't really like pinpoint a difference in between the different types of humor or like what kinds of jokes that they make, but it's always funnier if it's older.
I think the jokes are like less abrasive and
yeah, that's true.
A little bit more like not like innocent or wholesome, but like maybe just more well crafted, I think. Or they actually, I think what they do a lot in older movies, compared to like newer comedies, is they like take the time to have setup and punchlines.
Yeah.
Whereas in I think new movies, it's just a punchline or like a one word like offhand like sarcasm or a snarky comment or something shocking or edgy. And I think these are a little bit more the humor is a little bit more tuned towards actual like physical setup and payoffs and stuff like that.
Yeah, the comedy is mostly in the dialogue for this movie. There's not a lot of like physical comedy. I mean, there is some, but like it's mostly in the dialogue where this movie's comedy is. And I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, the dialogue humor is really good, but I would say there's a fair bit of practical humor in this.
Yeah, there is.
Or physical humor.
I can pinpoint a couple scenes, but like the funniest parts were mostly in the dialogue.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, this movie has there's I mean, I say this a lot for movies that we review, but there's a lot in here. But one thing that I found super interesting about this movie right off the bat that doesn't really go into a lot of spoilers is that this movie was done completely in black and white.
Yeah.
And this movie came out in 1974. Basically, like color film was introduced to the film industry in the 1930s.
Yeah.
It was a very, very interesting artistic choice from the director that I feel like really worked. Like it made it feel more like a classic like monster movie.
Yeah, I think they were trying to recreate the vibe, if you will, of a classic Frankenstein.
Yeah, because this is basically a huge spoof of the story of Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. So like this movie is by no means like it doesn't take itself too seriously. It doesn't take itself seriously at all, and I feel like that's also where some of the comedy comes from too. It's like it's so out there and over the top that it's just funny. It's really funny.
Yeah, I liked how tongue-in-cheek it was, and you're absolutely right. It does not take itself seriously at all, and I think that's to its benefit, because I think if it did try and take itself seriously, nowhere near as much of the comedy would have worked as much as it did. Yeah,
I feel like like you said, if this movie had tried to take itself seriously, I don't feel like I would have enjoyed it nearly as much as I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like the tongue-in-cheek comedy is a huge portion of this movie, and like I don't know, this movie was just really funny.
yeah. It's got a lot of what I call, and you can take this, depending on who you are, you can take this as a compliment or an insult. It's got a lot of what I'd call like dad humor.
Yeah.
I think dads, I can see dads like loving this movie. And I feel like a lot of like, I feel like it's always like older guys who are like, Oh, have you seen a Mel Brooks movie? You gotta watch a Mel Brooks movie, man. They're so good. And it's always guys in like their like 40s or 50s, and they're like always recommending Mel Brooks films. I don't know why that is, but maybe it's just because of the humor.
I mean, yeah, I could definitely see the humor being very dad-like because it does kind of some of the humor does kind of feel like dad jokes.
Hmm.
Like some of the repetition stuff and some of the plays on words are very what we would call in this day and age dad humor.
Yeah, yeah.
So I thought it was really really cool.
Hmm.
I'm trying to see like any of my notes that I put down. Yeah, it's not really a. I mean, it kind of is a classic. Like if you're looking at it from the lens of like Halloween movies that aren't super scary.
Hmm.
But it's not really. I mean, I don't know how to say this and put it lightly. Like it's not super special like you said, like I'm very middle of the road with it. Like I enjoyed it, I thoroughly
Yeah.
enjoyed watching it, but there's just something about it that like makes me want to like watch other movie. I would watch another movie before watching this again. Like it wasn't anything super stellar, but like it was really good to watch, and I would definitely watch this as like a feel good movie.
Yeah, it's just a really nice fun time.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you were saying, like, it's really famous in like Halloween and horror movies. I think you're right. But what I think it probably is like the genre or the subgenre that it's most famous, the most stands out in is the subgenre that is spoof movies.
Yeah, you're right.
Spoof movies are they're kind of tricky to pull off.
Yeah.
A lot of the times they come out really, really bad. Especially modern ones.
Mm-hmm.
See date movie, see epic movie, see disaster movie. All of those Eric Seltzer and
Like scary movie, like those kind of spoof movies too.
yeah, yeah, a little bit. I think the first scary movie speaks for itself a little bit more than the sequels do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
Um,
haven't seen any of them.
oh,
So
okay.
that's just I just know them for the title and the fact that they basically ridicule every aspect of horror movies.
Right, and like the a haunted house, which is like a spoof of a spoof movie.
Oh my gosh.
It's really it gets it's a bit complicated at this point in time.
I mean, it's very satirical. Like it's like it's satire. Like it's making fun of like another of like genres and like picking out the like parts and weaknesses and just making it like super over the top and crazy.
Hmm. And well, and what I want to say about the fact that it's a spoof movie, especially in comparison to modern spoof movies, is that I think this has got a lot of respect for the original, and it makes fun of it without ever like tearing it down or like directly like ridiculing it, but instead of like doing that in a detrimental way, it's like hey, wouldn't it be funny if instead of this, what happened in the original movie, this happened instead, and stuff like that. Wouldn't it be funny if they're not making fun of Frankenstein. They're
Yeah.
like just replacing it all together. So
Yeah.
in this case, it's the nephew of the nephew. No,
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 grandson.
the grandson of Frankenstein.
It's Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. Frankenstein. I I cannot say it the right way.
Really?
My brain just refuses to say because I like it starts to come out of my mouth and then my brain's like, oh, this is so close to Frankenstein. Just say Frankenstein. And then
Say it again.
Frankenstein?
Frankenstein. Yeah, kind of.
Frankenstein. Okay.
Maybe I can say it better because my family's German. I don't know.
Oh.
At least part or like most like ancestors are German.
Yeah, well, no, my family is German as well. So yeah, I don't know the Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
It's rough.
It's really funny though. That is a huge part of this movie. That is really really funny.
Mhm.
Like constantly Gene Wilder's character constantly correcting people. It's like it's not Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein.
Mhm.
So hi Diana. Nice of you to join us.
Diana's
on this night.
joining us.
Diana's joining us for. She joins us every
Imagine
single
a
episode.
spoof of Lights Out. That would be
Ooh,
weird.
yeah, that would be weird.
Anyways,
Anyways, I'm not sure. I don't have much else to note on for like anything else general. I mean, other than like I really like the music in this. The
mhm.
music was really good.
Did you hear the music cue? The dun dun dun,
Yes,
that
yes.
memes
Yeah,
clip
the
of like the
memes, yeah.
gopher.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Freaking Joker.
yeah,
Yeah, that's super like that super overused like stock sound effect of the
yeah.
da da da
I
like
laughed pretty hard when I heard that.
I'm not sure if like this is the movie that originated that sound effect or like if it came from somewhere else. I didn't do much research into it, but like I definitely know that that sound effect has been used for other things like going onwards
Yeah, I mean,
in
for all I know, this could have been the first time it was
yeah,
used. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, that made me laugh very hard. A
Yeah.
lot of the like sets and backdrops are nice too.
Yeah.
Again, they're very like reminiscent of those old sets almost like a stage set. Kind of the cameras in one direction looking in the whole time, and there's like a backdrop, and then sometimes like a matte painting in the background, with like the props and the set in front of that. So that was really fun to see. I mean, just because we don't watch many older movies, you don't see that kind of thing as much anymore. But
Yeah. It's
yeah,
funny that you mentioned that it's like set on a stage because this movie was actually adapted into a musical.
really.
Yeah, there is a Young Frankenstein the musical, and from what I've heard, I have not seen it, but I've always wanted to be in a production of it because it sounds so cool and I love this movie.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I've heard the music's good and it's a fun time.
Okay,
So that
cool.
it's very interesting to see how much of an impact this has had on like I mean it's still pretty relevant today. I mean
Hmm.
I learned about it a couple times mostly through other like more seasoned film people than I am,
Yeah,
but I still really like this movie a lot.
I could totally see why it's considered a classic. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It holds up pretty well to the point that um, you know what? That might be another thing. Is that a lot of modern spoof movies and stuff rely really heavily on modern day references
That's
and
true.
reference humor, which are inherently going to be dated in a matter of years, especially at the rate that we move now with our like pop culture. A reference will be dated within a month.
Yeah.
But this movie doesn't do any of that. It's so because of that, it's easily accessible and watchable today, and you don't feel like you're watching something as dated as it could be.
Yeah.
All the jokes are pretty universal. They're not really depending on your knowledge of other pre-existing properties, other than maybe say like the original Frankenstein. But yeah,
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. Like a lot of movie, like not even just spoof movies nowadays. It's most movies in general that have come out in the recent years do rely a lot on like Gen Z humor
yeah,
because that's their audience that they're catering to.
right, yeah,
Whereas like for this movie, they weren't catering to the same audience.
right.
So and the humor is I would call this humor pretty much timeless.
Yeah, and
I mean, if
it's
dad jokes have stayed relevant for this long, I
right,
mean,
right, yeah. No, yeah, and it's really it's almost like a sweet thing to see. Because I guarantee you now, and I'm gonna make myself sound way older than I am right now, but like if they made this movie today, like Frankenstein's monster would be like he'd get off the table and do like a Fortnite dance. so, so yeah, I'm very it's nice to see something not as cynical.
yeah, not as cynical. I hate that you're right. You are so right about that because like I mean, it's those kind of things that get popular that influence media to like, to like draw in younger customers like to buy
Right.
their stuff because like everything is like based on money, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot. Another thing I wanted to touch on with the humor of this movie is that there are innuendos up the wazoo.
Yeah, there are a
There
lot.
are so many innuendos in this movie,
Hmm.
and not all of them are safe for work, but they're
No,
still
yeah.
very, very funny.
I remember the first time I watched it, I woke up at a very, let's say, interesting moment. Wait, it was right during the end of the movie that I woke up. So I woke up and certain things were happening with Frankenstein that, well, let's just say I
The
was awake.
monster or the doctor?
The monster, excuse me.
Oh,
The
I know
monster.
exactly what part of the movie you're talking about then.
Let's just say that I was awake for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, there was a lot in this movie that like you needed a more mature like brain to kind of
Mhm.
I mean that sounds really weird, but like you needed to like know a bit more to like kind of for those jokes to land as well as
Right.
they did.
Right.
Because like
Yeah.
there were, I mean, I remember like I don't remember watching this as a kid, but I feel like if I had watched it as a kid, most of the jokes would have gone just whoosh, like right over my head.
Right. Yeah.
But now watching it as an adult, I'm like, this is different.
The innuendos and stuff and suggested scenes are a lot more like in your face in this. But
yeah.
But yeah, it kind of reminds me of something like Shrek, where I'd watch that as a
Yeah.
kid. And just have a very innocent time. And then, like, when I was older, I was like, wow, there's a lot of stuff in here I didn't get when I was younger.
Yeah, watching Shrek, like, as a kid versus watching Shrek now is a trip and a half.
Donkey's constantly saying, like, do you think Lord Farquaad is compensating for something? And I never got that until a few years ago. I'm like, whoa, that's kind of funny.
You're like, wait a minute. What did he say?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. There are a lot of innuendos in this movie. Yeah.
So rest in peace, Gene Wilder. You were an amazing comedian. We keep mentioning like we keep like reminiscing on people who have died in these most like recent episodes, like fun actors that have recently died. That's really sad.
We still got Chris Rock.
We still got. Oh my god. So I don't have anything else that's not related to anything plot related. Do you want to take a little break and then we'll get into it?
Yeah, sure. Sounds good to me. Let's take a quick break and we will be right back. Stay tuned. All right, we're back, everybody.
We're back, and it's time to get into some of the meat of this movie.
Yeah.
So if you have not seen Young Frankenstein, this is your spoiler warning now. We're going to be talking a lot. We're going to be talking a lot about some of the plot points and characters and significant points in the story. So here's your spoiler warning now. If you have not seen it, I would recommend going to watch it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, spoiler warnings in place. Let's get on with it.
All right.
So this movie, like we kind of already mentioned, this movie follows the grandson of, is it like Baron von?
Yeah.
Baron von Frankenstein, who is played by Gene Wilder. And he's this like psychology professor at a university, like a really, really old university. I even wrote in my notes, I was like, I'm getting Reanimator flashbacks from
Actually,
this.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Because there was like a teacher and then like one student that was just constantly asking him questions. The kid was relentless.
He was relentless.
He was like, wasn't your grandfather the one who went and dug up graves and like did all this bad stuff? And he's like, that was my grandfather, not me. And then just got mad enough to stab himself in the leg with a scalpel.
Yeah.
I guess when you were talking about like physical comedy before the break, I feel like that was a good moment of physical comedy where he was like so angry and like just this scalpel is like you could revive this scalpel more. Yeah. and then just stopped and realized what he did.
Yeah, or like the hump on Igor switching sides.
Yeah, it's like wasn't that on the. Never mind.
Yeah.
It was so funny because he had like an Ace Ventura moment when he like stabbed himself in the leg and was just like just without the scream. But like we talked about, this movie doesn't take itself too seriously. No. Like not even in some of the like romance scenes, because there are some like romantic scenes in this movie, but it's not serious at all. Like
no.
I know it's just Doctor, right? Like he doesn't have a first name.
I think so.
Yeah. It's just like Dr. Frankenstein has a fiance and like they're going to get married, and like she's saying goodbye as he's going to like read his grandfather's will or something. Yeah. And like they're saying goodbye at the train station, and it's supposed to be this like nice and touching moment between a couple, and he's like trying to hug her and she's like, no, not the hair, another? Don't touch my
Yeah.
lipstick. It's just setting. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It was really funny because she's like over the top dramatic about it too.
The worst part is I know some people that are like that. So,
Just completely
yeah.
unironically.
Genuinely,
Oh my
genuinely. It's a
God.
nightmare.
Wow. It's like, all right.
Yeah. No, yeah, that was really funny. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of jokes that involve like repetition in this movie.
Hmm.
Like jokes that get like carried out like through in multiple instances throughout this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
The one that comes to mind is the most classic one is the one about Frau Blucher.
I love that. That was really funny.
That's one of my favorites from this movie.
Yeah, that was one I wrote down. I'm like, this is it's really funny.
It's every time they say her name, it's just automatically like the horses just go wild and it's, no.
Yeah, and like lightning strikes.
And like lightning strike. It is the funniest thing.
Yeah,
and it
really
happens
funny.
every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't miss a single beat with this. It is amazing.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, Igor is a perfect comic relief character for this movie that I wasn't expecting him to be. I mean, he's kind of like the goofy sidekick, but like he's a really, really good comic relief.
Igor was just straight up my favorite part of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like, I want like an Igor movie.
Yeah.
Excuse me, an Igor movie.
Igor, yeah.
Igor.
Yeah, that was funny. He was like, Igor. Frankenstein or whatever, like
Frodrick.
Frodrick, yeah. Oh yeah, because it was Frederick Frankenstein.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's like Igor Frodrick.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was really, really funny. Yeah, the characters in this movie aren't incredibly deep.
Oh,
like
no.
they don't have like a huge backstory, but they are very easily identifiable. Like you know what character Dr. Frankenstein is. You know Igor, you know the monster. I mean, sometimes the two girls get kind of mixed up because you don't hear their names a lot in the movie,
right.
But like you know the character of like the assistant versus his fiance.
Yeah.
Which does become a conflict at some point. But,
yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many like there's so many funny beats too.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot that involve music. So like there's like the Frau Blucher has a violin and like she plays it a lot and there's like this and
yeah.
she constantly plays a song that turns out to like calm the monster down like after he like gets like he becomes alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a really cool motif because the song was actually really nice.
Yeah, the song was really good. Yeah, I like. Yeah, they could have done something way more annoying to.
Oh yeah,
to have on loop for the movie. But the nice little violin solo was it was very nice to hear. It calmed me as well. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I also really liked their little nods to the original Frankenstein movie.
Mm-hmm.
The one that always comes to mind is the scene with the little girl when she's like she's like throwing the flowers into the well.
I've never seen the original Frankenstein.
Oh no, this is in this movie. In this movie, I'm talking about in this movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because like there's a little girl who's throwing petals into a well, and then like all of a sudden the monster shows up behind her and is just like
yeah.
and then like and then it cuts away and the obvious like thing that you assume is like, oh my gosh, the monster killed her, like he killed this little girl. It turns out he's actually just throwing the petals into the well just like she is.
Yeah, he kind of goes on this little like mini like adventure where he just runs into a bunch of like characters around town. Yeah. He goes to a blind like monk's house or something and has soup and stuff. And that's another one with the physical humor as well. Where he's like pouring hot soup on him. Yeah. Yeah. It's
like and he pours the wine right, and then all of a sudden it's just bam and breaks the cup because he's blind. Because he's blind and the monster can't really verbalize anything. Mm-hmm. So it's always fun to see people interact with him. And yeah, but like going back to the girl, they make a small nod at the original movie that's like after she's done with all the like throwing all the petals, the girl's like, what should we throw next? and then and then the monster looks into the camera and then it cuts away.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because
Yeah.
that's part of the original story of Frankenstein is that like I think it's like either the monster threw her into the water or like they went swimming or something, and the girl actually drowned.
Oh,
and
geez.
then like the monster was like got blamed for her death. I'm pretty sure that's the story.
See, I didn't know that.
I should have double checked that before the show, and if that's wrong, I will correct myself later. But
Okay, gotcha.
I'm pretty sure that was the knowing gag. And then also the scene with her on the seesaw was really funny.
Yeah, that was cute. Yeah.
Why it was silent. She flew in complete silence through a window. Like there wasn't even like a pew sound effect. Like it was just like the girl just flies.
Yeah. It's just
there
like
was no sound effect.
Yeah, no, that was really funny.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I was like, what the heck is going on here?
And then like shoots into bed and just goes right to sleep.
Yeah. And then her parents are like, oh, she's back. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, this movie has some really, really, really funny bits that are like not as like it's almost like so many that I don't know which ones to talk about.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, my favorites all involve the Igor and a lot of his like facial expressions and stuff.
Yeah.
He's got this really funny smile and he's always the last person to leave screen and he always kind of like makes a little face right before he leaves.
Yeah, he does it's like Jim from The Office, like looking into the camera.
Yes,
like,
that's a really good comparison.
Yeah, like he always makes like knowing glances to the audience, like breaking the fourth wall. It's hilarious to watch.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, there was so much ad-libbing done in this movie, dialogue-wise.
Sure.
Like there was so much like ad-libbing done by like Gene Wilder and like Marty Feldman, who was Igor.
Mm-hmm.
There was just so much. So like most of this comedy was written by the actors themselves, and I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's always great to see that. A lot of the best comedies are a lot of ad lib. You hear that about a lot of the great ones where it's like, oh yeah, they were just throwing out jokes on set and stuff, and they made it into the movie. So
yeah, improvisational humor is probably one of the funniest types of humor because like you can it's like the humor that you can come up with on the fly. Yeah, and it's really, really hard to do. Like I've tried to do improv before. It is not easy at all. Like just because like you got to be funny and you gotta like think of something and make sure it's funny before you say it. Yeah, it's really, really hard to do, and it takes a special kind of talent to do that.
Have you ever seen The Dark Knight?
No.
Oh, you've never seen it? Oh, well, okay. I'll just say this really quick. It was a moment of improv. The Joker's walking away from a building that he's rigged to explode.
I think I know about this,
and he's got like a remote control detonator in his hand. So he's walking away and he hits the remote control detonator, takes a few steps, and then he like looks behind him. And in reality on the set, the explosion didn't go off right away. It was delayed and he was on film, like the cameras were rolling. And you only have one take when an explosion of a building is going to go off. So the explosion didn't go off. He doesn't know what to do, but instead of like breaking character, he starts like banging on the remote control in his hand and like calling it names and stuff. Yeah. And then the explosion happens in the background. It's a great moment of improv.
Yeah. There are a lot of good moments in improv in those kind of movies, and like it's so much that like most people don't even can't even tell it's improv. Like they're just like, oh, that was part of the movie. But in reality, that was something that the actor came up with on the fly. And like I said, it takes a special kind of talent to be able to do that.
Right. No, I personally couldn't tell which was improv and what was written down. No. So yeah.
It was 100%. Really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, by the end of this movie, Dr. Frankenstein and his monster basically switch lives.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious to watch. Like the scene that Jack was referencing before when he was talking about like where he woke up during the movie when we were talking about the innuendos. Basically, Frankenstein's monster ends up with Dr. Frankenstein's fiance.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Frankenstein ends up with his assistant. Yeah. So it's a weird swap, and they like actually do like switch brains at some point. Mm-hmm. That was another really funny moment for Igor is the Abby normal part.
I wrote that down. Yeah, I loved that part.
It was so good. Basically, it was a play on the word abnormal, and it's like Abby something. She put an abnormal brain.
Yeah, that was really great.
It was amazing. Yeah, a good, really good play on words, because
Mhm.
like they have a lot of good ones in this movie that I like a lot. So yeah, basically the doctor and his monster switch brains,
Mhm.
and it's really funny to watch like the monster actually speak and create like meaningful dialogue with the
Yeah.
townspeople after
Yeah.
literally just making like
Yeah.
like the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's like it was so funny when he first said like put that man down. I was like, wait, what? that was him?
Yeah, where's this voice? Like, because we haven't heard his voice the whole time, and then just some
No.
random voice we've never heard before, like, comes from off screen. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, have you, the actor that plays Frankenstein's monster in this movie, have you seen him in anything else?
I don't think so.
I was watching the movie and I'm like, this guy looks really
I
familiar,
was
but I
thinking
don't
that
know
too,
where
yeah.
it comes from. And then he talked, and I'm like, oh, it's the dad from, or the grandpa, I suppose. It depends on who you're talking about, but it's Raymond's dad from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh
Have
my
you seen
god,
that
are you
show?
serious? Hold
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
I have IMDb pulled up. No way, that's right.
Yeah, I used to watch that show with my parents all the time, or they'd have it on when I
Yeah,
was
wow,
younger.
you're right.
So he's like this weird part of like my childhood, because they always would have like Everybody Loves Raymond on in the background, and so when he talked, I'm like, oh my god, it's that guy. That's so awesome.
Wow. Apparently he was in Dr. Dolittle too.
Yeah, he was in a Scooby Doo movie as well.
He's also in the Santa Claus.
He's just in weird stuff.
Yeah, there's so much. Oh my goodness. Yeah, he's way more prolific than I thought he was.
hmm
Wow, that's interesting. Because I mean, he is a hulking figure in this movie. Like he is absolutely gigantic. I mean, that was probably done by like costuming and stuff like that. I don't know if
Yeah.
he's actually that big in real life,
You
but
could when he was climbing up the wall at the very end of the movie, you could kind of see the costume, like the padded
oh
shoulders
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. It was like, because he was having to climb up, so his suit was a little bit squished, and you could kind of see like the padding and stuff moving in a weird way. But
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, no, the costume was good.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask, since we kind of went over some of the basics, what do you think was the funniest part of this movie, like in your opinion?
Again, anything with Igor. But if I had to pick like a joke, I'd say the horses whinnying
Yeah,
every time they say her name was probably my favorite.
I guess I should like. What do you have a like the funniest scene to you? Like, what was the funniest scene in the movie in your opinion?
Funniest scene. Good question. I'm trying to think of my Igor scenes here. I liked when they were like stealing the body. That
Yeah.
was really funny.
Oh yeah, like when they had to like pull the arm, or like, and like Gene Wilder was using the body's arm
Yeah,
as
yeah.
like part of his little gag. That was good.
Yeah, just the introduction to the castle as well, and all the characters was really funny. Yeah, again, anything with Igor. I
Yeah.
love Igor.
I really like
He was awesome.
I really like the performance of Putting on the Ritz.
Yes, that was awesome. How
They
could I
have-
forget about that?
They have an entire segment where Dr. Frankenstein and his monster dance to Putting on the Ritz in I don't know what the style of dance is. I keep forgetting it.
Tap dance?
Like tap dance, kind of.
Yeah, like show tunes.
Yeah,
or...
show tunes, that kind of thing. Like it was very much like the monster was putting on a show.
Yeah. For all these like scientists and
Yeah.
doctors and stuff. Yeah.
It was hilarious because Dr. Frankenstein handled all like the normal words, but left the chorus to the monster.
Yeah, yeah.
Rather than like actually saying it, it was like put on the
Ritz. Yeah.
Screaming it in the funniest way possible. Like I also loved it with like super duper.
Yeah, you're right. That was a fantastic part of it.
Yeah, and then he kicks a light bulb and it explodes and the monster goes berserk, because like that's one of the biggest weaknesses for the monster is that he's afraid of fire. It's a huge part of the movie. Like at one point when like the monster is like captured by the police, the policeman just stupidly goes like up to him and takes a match and is like, "Ooh, you scared of this little fire?" And then I'm pretty sure the monster just kills him. I'm pretty sure the monster kills him there.
Yeah.
I mean, he got out and that man did not look like he was getting out. So honestly, I don't know, man. Yeah, there were, like I said before, there are some comedy powerhouses in this movie, and it really makes it really stands the test of time. Because, like, if going into this movie, being that it was, like, completely black and white, it sounded like it was really old, you probably could have assumed that this came out, like, way earlier than it did.
I thought this came out in the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
So about a decade earlier than when it actually did, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out like more stuff to talk about. There were so many funny moments. Like that made me laugh really, really hard was like when they finally find his library for the first time, his grandfather's library, and sitting on the table is a book that is literally titled "How I Did It" by Victor Frankenstein.
Yeah, that was really funny.
It's like in text, "How I Did It."
Right, yeah.
Like, if there was anything that someone could steal from that set, I would want to steal that.
Yeah.
That is like a perfect memento of being on set for that movie.
That's a really good example of like the tongue-in-cheek kind of humor.
Yeah, the tongue-in-cheek kind of humor.
Yeah, having fun with and poking fun at the original Frankenstein movie without making fun of it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a very important distinction that this movie makes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like ways that we can reference the innuendos without going like too far, because there are some jokes that literally like go really far. And I remember the one like at the very beginning where he meets the assistant for the first time, and they're in this like huge like hay trailer like that's pulled by a horse, and she's just laying in there, and she's like, "Hello, you want to roll in the hay?"
Yeah.
He's like, and then she starts rolling around in the hay.
There were a few play on words that were like, it was so much, it was like a pun.
Yeah.
So it was like for me, it was like almost eye roll worthy. I'm like, oh my god, that is the cheesiest thing. Or when they get up to the front of the house and Igor knocks on the door and it has these giant brass knockers on the door, and he's like, wow, those are some impressive knockers. And then she's like, thank you.
She looks down at herself and goes, "Oh, thank you, doctor." And everyone's like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, that was another one.
And I think those might be the only ones we can reference while staying safe for work on the air.
Probably. Well,
yeah, there was so much. I really liked Frau Blucher's character and like how she was weirdly like a red herring most of this movie, because like she owns the castle, and she acted very, very like strangely attracted to the doctor at some points.
Yeah,
it was kind of strange, like that first scene where she's like up in his room and is like, "Could I get you some brandy? No, good night. Some more milk? No, good night. Ovaltine? Good night."
Yeah.
Like there was just so much, like, and then like at the very end, like when they finally figure out like who she was or like why she had the castle, she goes like, "He was my boyfriend."
Yeah.
Which like they would not have used the term boyfriend
back in the day.
like in the context of this like at all,
right?
But it was just so hilariously used, because like she like punctuates everything she says by like a strum of her violin.
Yeah, with a big violin hit.
Yeah, it was really, really funny.
I will say I think her character was the least funny to me, but that's not to say like I like would have preferred her not be in there. I just think she, out of all of her jokes, hers were my least favorite.
Yeah.
Other than her name being used, which was one of my favorites.
Yeah, and like that was most of her presence in the movie, was to be that the butt of that joke. Like,
yeah.
Frau Blucher, like that.
Well, and also to let the monster out for the first time.
And to let the monster out,
which
was, like, he's a kind soul, or
which
like,
was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know why she did that.
No, I mean, well, nothing in this movie makes sense.
I suppose.
There was a constable with like just a whole like fake arm.
Yeah,
he was
like
just
a wooden arm.
Like apparently he was the one that everybody trusted out of the entire town.
Yeah, there's another example of that physical humor of him like constantly moving his arm up and down, and
Yeah.
it's got these like gear turning noises on in the background whenever he moves his arm.
Yeah, like he uses it like when he's playing darts with the doctor. He like stabs the darts into his arm to use when he throws them.
Yeah.
And then like he curses at it when it doesn't work. He's like curses at his arm. That was a funny beat too. Like after they have that dart tournament and like the is it like the constable or is it like an inspector? I don't remember his name.
I think constable. Yeah. I think constable.
When he gets into his car to leave the castle, one of like his doormen has a dart in his hat.
That was a really funny joke. Yeah, and all the wheels of his car were punctured out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was really, really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have, I mean, this movie is pretty reserved in its like area because it's mostly, there's a couple scenes that go outside of the castle, but it's mostly set in Transylvania in the castle.
Right, and I think that's because of the amount of sets that they would have had to make.
Yeah, because I don't know how big of a budget this movie had. I can't imagine it was gigantic in the 70s.
Probably not. But no.
I feel like this movie is much more like on color with humor than like say Blazing Saddles, which is another Mel Brooks movie that came out around this time. I have not seen that, but the couple people I've talked to have been like, tread with caution.
Oh, really?
So it might be that or a different movie. I might be mistaking
the only other movie I've seen from Mel Brooks is called The Producers.
Oh, The Producers. I've been meaning to watch that one.
It's a weird one, but like not bad, but it's weird.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see like because there's a musical adaptation of that one too. There's a musical adaptation of The Producers.
I think that one just might be a musical. Actually, in fact, what am I talking about? That is a musical. The original movie is everybody's singing and dancing the whole time.
Yeah, so. There was a theater company a couple summers ago that put on that musical. And I was meaning to go see it, but I think I was really young. Like I was about 16 or 17 at the time when I wanted to see it.
Gotcha.
So I didn't really have an excuse to other than the fact that I knew people in it. So
yeah, that movie's fun. It's weird. I've seen 2 Mel Brooks movies, and I can't say that I'm like just absolutely standing Mel Brooks, like some people do. I think it's just a generational thing. Yeah. I think he's just not of my time, and I can respect the people that like love him. But for me, it's not like, he's not peak. I would say like Edgar Wright is my new is my new Mel Brooks.
Yeah, I mean it's more like you enjoy Mel Brooks more for his craft than like him as like himself. Like you enjoy his products more. I mean, he it's not like Martin Scorsese, like whenever we have Brad on talking about like how he always makes perfect movies. Right. It's like Mel Brooks has made some very good movies. It's just like not every single one has been an absolute hit.
Oh no, yeah. No, I'm not trying to bash the guy at all. I think he's talented.
No, me neither. It's I enjoyed this movie a lot, and it was nice to revisit it after not having seen it for a year because I watched it the whole time that day that we were at the planetarium, but I was mostly watching it just to be there to watch it and also to watch Rocky Horror Picture Show that was right after it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm really glad we've decided, or I wanted to do this like rewatch and kind of do a deeper dive into more of the context behind the movie and some of the bigger things about it. So, did you have anything else you wanted to say about this?
I think I'm pretty good. Pretty good.
I think we're going to take one more tiny small break to get some water, and then we'll come back and do some trivia.
All right, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right, we're back, and it's trivia time. So we each have a couple questions about this movie that we're going to go over, and then we're going to give our final thoughts and ratings.
All right, sounds good. Let's get into it.
All right, I'll start. When this movie was released, one of Igor's scenes inspired a 70s classic rock song that was released not long after. What was it? Bonus points if you can guess the scene.
Shoot, you stole mine.
Did I really?
It's Walk This Way, made by Aerosmith, and it's the scene where Igor tells Frederick to walk this way.
Yeah, that was such a hilarious factoid that I found out. That it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like that this movie inspired an Aerosmith song.
I
Like,
love the like nonchalantness of it. Of it's like,
yeah,
oh, I liked this line in a movie. I'm gonna write a song about it. Like
yeah.
I love
And then
that.
it's like that song has stood the test of time too, because like there's
Hmm.
covers of it now. Like, I mean, I originally didn't when I like I know a lot of like classic rock from like 70s and 80s. Thanks,
Yeah.
Dad. But when I first heard the song for the first time, I heard the Run DMC version, not the Aerosmith version.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
like it was a more like hip hoppy kind of thing that I wasn't that I didn't know. I didn't know the Aerosmith version first.
Sure, sure, sure.
So yeah, that was really interesting, especially considering like the walk this way thing is
Hmm.
not just a thing for this movie. Like it's in other movies and has become a running joke for Marty Feldman in some of the other
Oh,
movies he's been
really?
in.
Oh,
I'm pretty
cool.
sure that's what I read online.
Cool,
So
cool. Yeah, I love like there a lot of people, especially people that aren't like that don't play music or don't write music or have no idea about that industry. They'll think that like to write a song it's like this magical process and only the most, and like just extremely gifted people can write songs and it's this otherworldly power and it's so pure and it's like it's just guys writing songs. So it's like I just heard this line in a movie and I think it's so funny that I'm gonna write a song about it. And
yeah.
it's I love that. I love like just making songs about like just random things that you encounter in your day like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say that writing a song is easy by any means.
No,
Like
no.
it is definitely it's not the like huge fantastical process that most people think it is. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
mostly just inspired by one thing and then it spirals from
Hmm,
there.
hmm.
So,
Yeah.
what was your question? I'm sorry, I stole
Okay,
one of
so you
yours.
got that. Okay. What does Mel Brooks do in all of his movies?
Oh, like directorial wise, or does he like, or is it like something that was
Actually, let me
visible
say
on screen?
this. What does Mel Brooks do in all of his movies except this movie?
Cameo?
You're right. He does.
Oh,
He cameos in all of his movies except this one. And you know why he didn't cameo in this one is because Gene Wilder actually talked him out of it.
oh.
Yeah.
I thought he did a cameo for the voiceover at the beginning.
He might have done that,
Oh,
but
but
he
I guess
didn't
that
make
doesn't really count as a physical cameo.
he probably did that voiceover and then he also did some of the like the werewolf sounds
Oh.
or the howling noises,
Well, yeah,
but
because I know, like, when the doctor throws a dart out the window, there's a cat noise, or like he sounds like he hits a cat.
yeah.
That was Mel Brooks improving after Gene Wilder missed.
Really?
He threw the dart off screen, and then Mel Brooks was like, "Oh no, meow."
Oh my god, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't make a physical on-screen appearance, which is what he normally done. And so, and apparently the characters that he would cameo as regularly broke the fourth wall and would they'd wink at the audience.
Oh.
And Gene Wilder thought that this would clash with Young Frankenstein's tone. So, as a condition of him taking on the lead role, Wilder made Brooks agree to remain off camera.
Wow.
Which is really weird. Like imagine that. Like
Yeah.
someone else is making a movie and you come on. They want you to come on. And you're like, "Okay, I'll be in your movie, but you can't be in. I don't think that you would work on screen in your own movie."
That's weird, yeah, because because Gene Wilder did help write this one.
Mm-hmm.
He helped write this one, but like Mel Brooks did a lot of the directing.
That's true.
So
That's true.
yeah.
I forgot that he wrote this one or helped to write it.
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, it was him and Mel Brooks who wrote the screenplay, and then Mary Shelley was the one who wrote the book Frankenstein.
Okay, got you.
So, there was a lot of writing work for this movie.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mel Brooks considers this movie the best that he's ever directed, but where does it rank amongst his funniest?
Oh,
Like how funny, or like where does it does it fall like in the funniness, like his ranking of funny?
I was gonna say like his own personal ranking
his
of funny.
the funniest movies he's directed.
Oh, How many do you know, like off the top
I
of your head,
don't
about how
know.
many
I don't
movies
know
he's
the
made?
number. I don't know the
Um,
number.
I'll say it's in like his like top five or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's like the kind of answer, but yeah.
I mean that it's correct. He ranks it third. He
Oh,
ranks
okay,
it
okay.
third on his ranking, right behind Blazing Saddles and The Producers, which we already kind of talked about a
Oh,
little
got
bit.
you, got
So
you. I'd
I
put
believe
this.
I believe Gene Wilder also stars in Blazing Saddles.
Yes, yep, he does.
So yeah,
Or I think so, anyways.
yeah. Let me just I'll Google that
Maybe.
real quick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd personally put this above The Producers in terms of funniness, but yeah, to each their own. I mean, he's the director, so
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, he was in The Producers too.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm just looking at Gene Wilder's page on IMDb.
No, you're good.
There ain't. Oh yeah, yep. He was in Blazing Saddles. Yeah.
When I think of Gene, the first time I ever watched this movie, actually, it was almost a little distracting because I have only seen Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka.
Oh yeah, me
so,
too. Yeah.
so the first time I watched this, it was like, oh, that's just Willy Wonka on the screen.
Yeah, that was yep, that was my thought too. Like when I first I mean, I had heard I obviously I knew Gene Wilder had like done other movies that weren't this one.
Yeah, yeah.
But or that weren't Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but that was my one real exposure to him because that was the movie I watched as a kid. Like I watched
Yeah.
Willy Wonka a lot, and
Mhm.
I mean I remember I originally watched it because the new one with Johnny Depp came out around the time I think I was like 10 or 11, like
Mhm.
old enough to like want to know the story and like kind of knew the book.
Mhm.
So I ended up watching the movie, and it was I do prefer the original to the Johnny Depp version.
Okay, I was gonna ask which one you like better.
Yeah, I mean it's much less psychedelic. I mean it's the first one is I mean Willy Wonka is definitely psychedelic, but the Johnny Depp one definitely plays into more of the like psychedelic CG, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
way more than the original does.
True.
So I mean there is still that terrifying boat scene
Yeah.
that will haunt me until the day
That's
I die.
traumatized kids across the nation. Yeah.
It really has. Yeah, it really has. Did you find another question, or I mean, I know I took one of yours.
Yeah. No, I'm all good over here.
Okay. Do you want to go into our final thoughts?
Sure. Yeah. Let's break this down a little bit.
Yeah. I can go first if you want.
Sure. By all means.
So this movie was a really nice change of pace to watch, especially in contrast to the Saw movies we've been watching. Because like those were somewhat funny, but in a different way.
A much different
way. But these were still kind of they were still funny and lighthearted, and this one was way more funny and in a lighthearted way.
Mm-hmm.
The humor was universal. I'm glad you thought it was funny because if I was sitting here and like, that was really funny, it would have turned out like the episode of Spiral where I was like, I kind of like this, and you were like, this movie sucks. Cynical Jack over there. Yeah. Chris Rock's not funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting back into it. This movie does have a good mixture of physical and like verbal comedy. I'm gonna backtrack on what I said earlier because I forgot about all like the physical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I do apologize for that. I did backtrack, but but this movie was really fun. I'm not sure if I would consider this movie cult, but like it's not really a super popular movie. I'm not really sure. Like I didn't hear about this movie until I was much older than you hear about a lot of the classic movies from like the 70s or 80s.
I think it's like on everybody's radar, but it's not many people's like favorite of all time.
Yeah, it's like it's on the radar, but it's like on the very edge.
Yeah,
like just the tiny blip on the map.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and I thought it was really funny. And even though it's not a perfect movie by any means, there were a couple. The only like technical thing I noticed was there was a couple like audio dubbing issues.
Yes,
like they did dub a little bit of the audio, but other than that, I really enjoyed this movie, and I would probably watch it again for like Halloween and stuff like that. So I'm going to give this movie a solid Let's go 7.5 out of 10.
Okay, all right, nice, nice.
I'm trying to be generous because I'm normally like on the extremes in movies or
Oh,
like
gotcha.
somewhere in the middle, and I feel like if I go back to like see what I've rated other movies, I my opinion's gonna be way changed.
Oh,
So I'm
sure,
trying to
sure.
like be generous on either side so that I don't like make a movie like close to perfect and then like not have any room for any movies that are perfect or like movies that are terrible.
I got you. I
So
got you. Okay. Yeah, that's a smart way of doing it.
yeah, because I normally rank movies in like whether I liked them or whether I didn't like them,
Sure,
or like I
yeah.
like them a little.
Right,
Mine's
right,
on like a
right.
1 of 3 scale, not of 10.
Okay. Got you, got you. Yeah. So yeah, now I'll do my summary. And my summary is that this is a really fun little movie. It's well made. It's a great it's a fun like just normal everyday movie. But in terms of like spoof movies, I think it's actually probably a great spoof movie. Just because that genre is shaky, especially in modern day. It didn't used to be as bad back in the day, but in terms of a spoof, it pays homage to the original really well without becoming too cynical or trashing it or anything. It's got a nice level of respect for it, so I really appreciated that aspect. Gene Wilder is he's like a crazy person. His performance is really good in this
Yeah,
movie.
he's got some crazy facial expressions
He
in this
does,
movie.
yeah, yeah. So he does a great job. All the cast does he easily gives the best performance, but all the cast is serviceable. Oh, I can't forget Igor.
Yeah, you can't forget Iger.
Igor did a great job, and honestly, he's the most memorable part of the movie. IMO, but
In my
but
opinion.
yeah. I guess with this kind of movie, for me is that for me personally, there's just not like a lot to like dig into or really get deep in, and that's not a problem. That's just how it is for me personally. So I this is the movie I've by far taken the least amount of notes for. I just didn't have a crazy amount really to say
Yeah.
about the movie. It's like it's like I'm trying to think of like a good like metaphor, but I can't really think of anything. It's like a dish that just leaves you feeling like not totally full, but just really satisfied. You're like, yeah, that was a good snack I had.
Yeah.
A really yeah, it satisfies you. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just a nice thing that comes and goes, and it's like, yeah, I really
It's like
appreciate
a
that.
diet Snickers bar or something.
Sure,
Satisfies kind of.
sure, sure. Yeah. And yeah, and like for criticisms, I mean, the only thing is you're right. There was some noticeably bad dubbing every now and again.
I mean, it
Um,
was most noticeable for me in that first scene, like when he's in the classroom,
yeah.
like the one guy that just got like kind of got brought in to become like what would they call it? Like a display or like a
Oh,
volunteer.
yeah, yeah. I assigned a volunteer for science.
Yeah, a volunteer. Like there's obviously a lot of like ooh and like it's just like pain sound effects that were overdubbed in post. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. And then yeah, and then just jokes scattered every now and again that like didn't make me wheeze with laughter. I can't say there was many like bad jokes. I guess the only bad jokes are like the eye roll worthy ones, like
Yeah,
rolling
the eye roll
hair,
movie ones where you still
the
laugh.
knockers and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I will say, I think towards the latter half of the movie, there's a very loose plot going on here.
Yeah.
And by the end of the movie, I think it just kind of goes off the rails and is kind of just doing whatever. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not really sure like where the movie's going. Kind of after I'd like just the beginning of the movie is like he goes there, he finds out that he can create life, he he tries and creates life, and then from that point, just the rest of the script was antics ensue.
Yeah. It's
Rather
yeah.
than like a direct story or something that I'm like, rooting for, per se.
Yeah, it's like the movie was a solid like good train for the first like half of the movie, and then like towards the middle of the movie where you'd expect it to lose steam, it doesn't lose steam, but all the train cars start to separate, and then it
Yes.
just becomes like a crazy mess.
Yes, yeah.
There's a lot of like cuts to black and like fades where you just kind of like have to assume what was going on.
Right.
And
right.
mostly that's to like keep the scenes together. Like whenever like when we were talking about the monster going on his little like tirade and his little like adventures, most of those would be like segments and like cuts to black, kind of like a comic book. Like little like comic chapters.
Yeah.
So that was probably those were good uses of it, but there were some that were kind of like used as like, oh, they're here. Oh no, now they're here. So it was just some of them were done well, some of them could have been a little bit more fleshed out.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But no, yeah, I still had a really good time with this movie. I'm very glad you recommended it, and I'm gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10.
All right. So that was our review of Young Frankenstein. I'm very happy we decided to do this. This is a fun cool down movie from our Sawscapade of October. A fun little comedy to contrast all the guts and gore we were talking about for a straight month. I don't ever want to stop talking about Saw. I don't ever want to stop talking about it, man. Like it was so much fun.
Yeah, they need to make another one so we can keep the
honestly
series going.
Yeah, please. Yeah, next October, Lee Winnell, James Wan, where are you? We need more Saw.
Yeah, get on it.
Get on it, man. So normally next week we would have Jack recommend a movie for us to watch, but we actually have another special guest coming back on. Caitlin, like I mentioned earlier, she was a guest for a couple episodes during the first semester that we did Ravings and Reviews before our little hiatus around this time last year.
Yeah.
But she chose to review the Star Wars franchise. So we will be doing next Friday, she will be back on and we will be reviewing the third installment of the Star Wars prequels because she wanted to go chronologically, and we've already we have a review of the Phantom Menace and the Attack of the Clones, not the Clone Wars.
Yes,
that's the series. Yep, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
Yeah,
that is already up on our YouTube channel, Ravings and Reviews. So go check that out. But next Friday, tune in where she will be back on, and we will be reviewing Revenge of the Sith. I was just making sure I had that right, because for some reason I can never remember the name of that. Like there have been so many times where I like talk about it and I'm like, the third prequel, the third, help me. Like, what is the name of it? But like I just know it like as it's the third prequel,
the good prequel.
Yeah, you're right. So stay tuned for the rest of November, where we're gonna have a bunch. Actually, I should ask you, do you have a movie picked out for the next time that you and I review something?
I've always got movies picked out.
Oh, I mean, if you wanna say it, by all means.
No, I think I'll keep it wrapped up until our next episode.
All right, well, we'll keep it under wraps. So keep watch of our socials. We're trying to be more active on Twitter, YouTube, Letterboxd, Facebook. Sometimes I use Facebook for mostly posting the uploads.
Oh, okay.
Like links to uploads. And if you want our like up-to-date communications, follow our Twitter, Ravings. Actually, it's at Ravings P, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We will make sure that is our username.
The links to all our socials are at the description of our YouTube channel, so you can go there.
Yep. Right now we don't have any new episodes up, but the last one that's up right now is the Truman Show. Right?
Goodfellas.
Oh, Goodfellas, yeah.
Goodfellas, yeah.
Goodfellas is up.
The first Saw episode will be up in a couple days here.
Nice. So. Okay. And then we'll just kind of, because like you said, the last episode, the Saw episodes take a bit longer because those ones are 2 hours long as opposed to an hour or so long that these ones are. So.
Yep.
Do you have anything else, Jack, before we say goodnight?
I'm good. No.
All right. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next Friday for Revenge of the Sith.
All right, everybody. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.